Last week, for the first time since I started this podcast, I wasn't able to release an episode. And if you're like me, you probably know the voice that followed the decision to let it go. It sounds something like, you should just do it, get it done. It's important. But I chose not to push through. I could have judged myself for not getting it done. In fact, part of me did. But rather than sink into feelings of failure, I found a truth about capacity, about the limits I don't always want to admit I have, and about what happens when I stop overriding my body to meet expectations I can't sustain. How often do you do things or say things when your body says no? I think many of us are finding out that our midlife bodies have changed the rules on us. Are we going to accept what our bodies are telling us? Or will we fight ourselves one decision at a time, every day? You are listening to the Midlife Plot Twist podcast, and this is episode 34. Happy Monday, everyone. Before I jump into this week's topic, I want to let you know that I've set up a weekly newsletter called Letters from a Woman in Midlife Crisis. When you subscribe, you'll receive a letter from me directly to your inbox every Monday. You can subscribe to receive letters from a woman in midlife crisis in a few different ways. First, the direct link to the newsletter will be in the show notes. You can also type in the URL substack.com/@ letters from a woman in midlife crisis, all one word. That's substack.com/@ letters from a woman in midlife crisis, all one word. You can also head over to the link tree in the bio of my Instagram account, which is Midlife Plot Twist Podcast. Or you can email me directly at midlifeplottwistpodcast@gmail.com. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would I subscribe to your newsletter, Jen? Well, first, the newsletter will contain more and different perspectives and experiences on being a woman in midlife than I publish in my podcast. 2, you won't have to go searching for it on Substack if you're not someone who's already on Substack. 3, and mainly because you'd be supporting me and this little world that I'm creating on the internet for women in midlife. In this world, you'll get genuine experiences and reflections on being a woman in midlife that aren't completely ChatGPT generated and generic repetitions of what everyone else is saying or promoting. That's a very good reason, I think. Okay, so let's get on to this week's episode. You may or may not have noticed last week I missed releasing an episode and sending out my newsletter. This was the first time that I just didn't publish anything. Part of it was due to scheduling on my part. I had a few competing deadlines with my coursework that didn't feel I had enough time for. But underneath the deadline stress was something I think many women in midlife are confronting, and that is the changing capacity of our bodies. Last week, when I realized that I didn't have time for everything and that my priorities are school and rest right now, I considered pushing through to get the episode out. In that case, I would have been staying up into the late hours of the night, feeling exhausted and just overall unwell. Frazzled with a combination of adrenaline and frayed nerves, which I have been many times in my life. A younger version of myself would have done this. Well, to be honest, the me of even just a year ago would have done this. But I've reached a point in my life where I can't override my body in the same way I used to anymore. As I reflected on having not released the episode last week, I thought about the uncomfortable reality that in midlife, many of us cannot physically do life the way we used to. Last week, I felt frustration and self-judgment while asking, what's wrong with me? Feeling fear and soaking in self-judgment, I compared myself to when I was in my 20s doing schoolwork. I could pull all-nighters if need be. I could keep my mind relatively clear with the help of caffeine. I could operate on very little sleep and still run through my daughter's daily routine. However, in midlife, I need more rest, less social time. I have brain fog most of the time, and most days I get emotionally exhausted easily. Every responsibility, be it work, school, or family, stacks together, feeling like a mountain at times. All this lands on my shoulders as I sit at my desk trying to find the will to override my body's needs like I used to, and it makes me feel, well, old. When I was in my teens and Mom was in her early 40s, I asked her one day, "Why don't you ever go out? Why do you go to bed so early? It's Friday night. Why do you just watch movies?" This makes me laugh, even just to remember. Mom replied with a knowing tone in her voice and without looking directly at me, "You'll see, Jenny. You'll understand eventually," as though she was sharing a deep Buddhist riddle with me to figure out. Well, I figured it out. At the same time, I'm not simply marinating in my own self-comparison. Culturally speaking, I think women are indirectly and sometimes directly praised for overfunctioning, being reliable for others to their own expense, for having worth tied to productivity, pushing through illness or exhaustion, and caregiving without limits. Self-sacrifice seems to be a normal and everyday part of being a woman. How many of you listening have been called or call your bestie a superwoman, supermom, Wonder Woman, or a shero? Many women have entered midlife already exhausted because we spent decades neglecting ourselves and focusing too much on others. Maybe even striving for the Wonder Woman or Supermom titles. I know that I got a certain amount of satisfaction out of that. But here we are now in midlife, and this time of our lives actually exposes the unsustainable patterns and the false stories that we've been telling ourselves about where our self-worth lies. We're waking up to realize that it's not in a clean toilet bowl, having no energy left at the end of the day for ourselves, or working overtime without being paid. Midlife exposes the degree to which we've been self-abandoning. Our bodies stop cooperating with it and start to rebel. I am experiencing midlife more deeply with each year that goes by, and by this I mean that I realize I am working on accepting that I am not limitless. On a heavier level, if that wasn't heavy enough, I've also confronted mortality through my own experience with cancer and being there for my parents' deaths. Because of this, time is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately too. I notice that my sense of time is shifting as I move through midlife. The cliche that time is fleeting and the saying that time moves slowly are both true, and it depends on how I befriend it or resist it. Midlife has been very humbling so far because it keeps asking me to tell the truth about what I actually have capacity for, not what I wish I could sustain or what I think I should sustain or what I used to be able to handle. The difficult part of telling the truth is that I'm going to have to say no more often and sometimes disappoint people. And that can be terrifying. Accepting all of this comes with grief. I grieve the resilience that I used to have. I grieve the energy that I no longer have for things. I still have energy, don't get me wrong, but it's very different. Given the preciousness of my energy, I'm more discerning, selective, and intentional with my time. And I'm still resilient. It's just in different ways than before, like my energy, and I'm still learning to respect it. I just had a little voice in my head say, "But aren't you giving up or succumbing to things that are preventable by not pushing beyond your capacity?" And I don't think so. I'm not giving up. It's far from it. This is more of an acceptance of reality than anything. There's power in surrendering to what actually is than constantly pushing for what isn't or doesn't seem to be. So if not this, then what? If not supermom, then what? If not overriding, overdoing, and self-abandoning, then what? I don't have the answer for this, and everyone will be different. But in my experience, I'm practicing a softer pace, having boundaries around my time and energy such that I stop before I get sick or exhausted, caring for my nervous system, as well as self-trust. It takes a lot of practice. I'm wondering if you're willing to start practicing these things for yourself. I wonder if you're ready to live within the limits and bounds of your capacity and honor the truth of your body and your reality as it is right now. I'm starting to wrap up the episode, and I think in conclusion, I want to advocate for a lot of self-compassion, non-judgment, as well as for prioritizing sustainability over performance. And that doesn't mean less quality for those of you who are out there and are also perfectionists like I am. So yes, I missed an episode last week, and part of me really hates that. But another part of me, the part of me that is growing into midlife and learning to love that, I believe she is the wiser part of me, in fact. She realizes that this season of life is teaching me a lesson that I've actually been working on for a very long time. And that is that my self-worth doesn't disappear as my capacity changes. I'll wrap up with a question for you to reflect on until next week. I might have mentioned in a previous episode that I journal every day, and I really believe in externalizing our thoughts and feelings in some way. Journaling is a really good way. So one thing you can reflect on is this. What are you still expecting from yourself that your body no longer wants to sustain? And with that, I will end this episode, my midlife friend. Please don't forget to head over to substack.com/at letters from a woman in midlife crisis to subscribe to my newsletter. The direct link will be in the show notes, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you next week. Until then, be well.